Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I am joined again by Damon Steele, mortgage professional, and we discuss the proposed changes to the real estate market here in BC. The provincial government has announced BC Homes for People program. This program could impact your plans for either holding, buying, selling or redeveloping property here in BC. We will be highlighting the key sections of these changes, including new zoning laws to increase development, forgivable loans for renovations, speeding up the permitting process, and ending age restrictions in stratas. So stay tuned as we break down these complex changes and how they may affect you here in BC. But quickly, before we get into that, I've been helping folks here in Fernie buy and sell property now for over 5 years. And if you're in the market and you need some guidance, use the contact information below this video to reach out and schedule an intro call. So don't forget, subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with all my latest videos. So now let's get into it. So Damon joins me once again, and we're going to get into discussing the BC Homes for People's program. Got it right. So yeah, Damon, take it away.
Yeah. So typical in government form, proposing sweeping changes without really consulting an industry. And as you can imagine, they made some pretty broad strokes. I'll clarify, or I'll kind of summarize, the four main ones. Like there was a number of other initiatives that were made for creating more social housing accessibility, but just to focus on kind of what may apply to the real estate market, to real estate consumers. I'll kind of work backwards to then get to the main one that a lot of people are focusing in on. So one of them was they've already gone ahead and prevented age discriminating stratas, or basically have removed the 19 plus age discriminated stratas, or the rental restricted stratas. So basically apartment buildings, townhouses, or whatever, that prevented people from being able to rent those units. They've eliminated that. That's already happened. What they've now imposed is that for some of those buildings, what they've tried to do is make them 55-year plus. And what that's done for some people who already lived in these buildings, who are thinking about starting a family, well, they're going, oh my God, do I have to move?
Right.
And so they've eliminated that. So they're allowing people, they can still convert buildings into 55 plus. They still believe that there's a benefit to having more senior focused housing. But what they didn't want to necessarily have happen was have a bunch of people who have lived in buildings and are thinking about having a family, or who don't fall within kind of that 55 plus category, from being forced out.
Right.
So that's one element. This is a bit vague, but they're creating systems that are intended to speed up the kind of development process and permitting process across all municipalities. So basically creating one system that should help expedite people's ability to renovate, to build, to create new housing development, which is intended to try and speed up the process, which a lot of municipalities, a lot of builders, developers have been complaining that the cost of and time that it takes to finally get their vision to be able to start being built is taking too long. So they've created that.
Oh, that's great. That's a huge problem here in Fernie. So how does that, is that just something, does that come under a title, or is that just something that they're going to be doing?
I believe they've come up with a name for it. But again, a lot of the things that they end up doing in these, it's pretty broad strokes.
Yeah.
It's done without, because you can imagine there's, because this is a provincial mandate.
Yeah.
This is applying to every municipalities that are large, small, it might be beneficial, or it might be best for municipalities like Fernie, or communities like Fernie, where they may not necessarily have the budget to put in a ton of new technology infrastructure to
Mm.
create the stuff if it's like a system that comes from it. But like what, like if you're trying to build like a technology for a community like that, and it's the same as what you have in Vancouver,
Yeah.
right? Like there's probably not going to be like there's going to be some things that are not necessarily applicable. And I'll get into that in a second. Um, One of the other things that they were offering, which is probably pretty interesting to a lot of your existing homeowners or people who are thinking about buying, is that they'll be able to access a forgivable loan of up to 50% of the cost of a renovation if it leads to creating a basement suite. So if they can renovate and rent out a basement suite, one of the conditions of that, however, is that they offer rents that are below market rates. And again, this is vague for a reason. You know,
Yeah.
what does that mean? How much below market rent does that? Is it $1? Is it more than that? For a period of 5 years. So basically,
Okay.
let's let's give people some extra capital or like some
Yeah.
extra money that's interest free or basically forgivable, so long as they can help fix our problem, which is creating enough housing for the people that need it.
Right.
Now, the big one, which is what most people are focusing in on, is that they're now changing zoning, where
Yeah.
they're trying to increase housing unit density. Right, so putting more units into a specific lot. And I'm in Vancouver here, so you've got these kind of like smaller 33 by 120 square foot lots here. It's about just over 4,000 square feet,
Yeah.
and the idea behind that is you might be able to build out up to 1.0 floor space ratio. So that would be like a 4,000 square foot multi-unit property on that same lot.
Okay. Yeah.
So this sounds great, in theory, if we're trying to create more housing for
Yeah.
people to live in. But the big missing piece in all this is, well, do we have the infrastructure to support it?
Yeah.
Right? You can imagine what was previously a block that had, basically in my neighborhood, cars park all along the side. It's always jam packed with vehicles,
Yeah.
and so you literally have one lane to run your car. So you have to pull over and let one car go past, and then you go by. So imagine a row of these houses all converting into a fourplex
Yeah.
with only one parking pad, because that's
Yeah.
one of the other requirements is that you limit the parking associated with it as well.
Mm.
Uh, and you can also assume too, let's say you add 4 units plus they each have, let's say they're 1,000 square foot each. So they each have, a toilet, two toilets and several sinks. All of that is going to um, kind of play a pretty big role in terms of like our ability to handle sewage and all these other things. So these kind of sweeping changes where they're like, this is what we're going to do
Mm.
without really consulting the various municipalities and the effect that this is going to have is kind of leaving a lot of people scratching their head.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like government though. But yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, there's we're just discussing this morning on another sort of, little bit different. But again, it's always my concern is like, yeah, we want all these things to happen, but where's the bigger picture plan of infrastructure and, down to like hospitals and schools and, all this people coming in, great, create more housing for them, brilliant. But what happens once all these units have been built and nothing else changes? It's
Where do my
uh,
kids go for daycare?
or
Where do they
yeah,
go to
yeah,
school? All of this stuff that you can't just only focus on one particular area and just build that out
mm,
without having to look at the overall scope and plan. And that's part of what a city or a municipality is so good at, is that they work cohesively together to say we can build, we can focus on maybe redeveloping these areas of the city because we have an intention or a goal, or we've been working with the government to maybe build these other supporting pieces of infrastructure.
mm,
But if your policy doesn't really allude to any of that, it's just straight up build up more like build more places for people to live on these existing places, it might be a bit short-sighted. And it's interesting. So, in speaking with, again, city of Vancouver,
Hmm.
um, each municipality is kind of rolling this out, you know, somewhat discretionary, right? So like this is what the provincial government said that they wanted to do. Um, Victoria's already done it. They're already going at full steam ahead with this. So you're starting to see the development and permitting process for that. Coquitlam, it's already starting to happen as well. They're starting to increase their housing density that they'll just approve in a short period of time, um, that they had not previously done before. Other municipalities are just going to try and figure out what they can do, but the mandate is to get this ready by January of 2024.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So, and then the province is saying, if you can't get this ready by that time, then we'll come in and make it happen. Which
Right.
obviously nobody necessarily wants, them to do that. So they're leaving it to these municipalities to figure out,
Okay.
but with the intention that they may come in if, let's say, the municipality just say, "Hey, we can't do this," um, then the provincial government's offered to like start pulling their or pushing their weight around.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Well, that's good to. Yeah, I'm actually gonna follow up with our local council here to see what thoughts they have on this. So, is there any other things that are coming through with this program?
Well, yeah, so I think it's in the introductory phase, right?
Right.
And everyone's kind of getting acquainted. So it's going to be this more wait and see approach to see how things develop.
Yeah.
When this, let's say, going back to the forgivable loan process, so that's slated for coming uh, into a, into view in like early 2024, right? So
Right.
the government, I assume, will be the ones to be lending out that money, or maybe they'll be working in conjunction with certain, I don't know, credit unions or banks to be able to offer these loans and create the forgivability aspect of it, and
Okay.
also to monitor whether or not you actually comply with it. So it's, again, this is kind of in the infancy stage, but
Right.
what it is leading to, especially if, let's say, you're able to redevelop a lot way easier than you had been before, is you have more speculators that come into the market, right? So
Yeah.
we've heard from other clients of ours who have been thinking about maybe buying a house to renovate for themselves or to build a duplex, are going,
Mm.
let's just wait. Let's just wait to see what actually happens, because if I can build 4 units instead of building 2 units,
Mm.
and I can sell them all and I create more profit by virtue of doing that, I might just want to wait to kind of see what happens. So it creates a little bit more speculation in our market. What actually happens, we'll wait and see. But in all likelihood, it will be some sort of escalation. It's probably not going to
Mm.
be like, oh, we made a mistake, let's pull back on this. It will
Mm.
probably be, let's continue on with it. Maybe they, um, maybe, after they commiserate with the municipalities, they scale it back, or they give the individual municipalities a little bit more control on the variances of this.
Mm.
But it is leading to more buyers speculating on owning real estate, not necessarily doing or pulling the trigger on that big renovation or construction project just yet, until they can see how this fleshes out.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to follow along and see how it does go because all aspects of that. It's kind of well, yeah. Do buyers who in a certain sector, say for example, first time buyers think, well, okay, well that sounds interesting. I could borrow this money to renovate that, and then maybe I could. Rent out my basement suite to pay for my mortgage, or like you say, maybe um, people who are thinking about doing a bigger renovation will go, well, okay, well, maybe we'll build, multi-unit property, and that will enable us to, like you say, just sell the whole thing at profit. And so, yeah, be interesting to see how, and then it might just mean a whole people of just hold off on the purchasing, pulling the trigger on the purchase as well. So,
Yeah, I from what we see, most people at this point, if they're prepared to buy,
mm,
there's no one's really sitting on the sidelines. They're ready to go. It's
yeah,
just about finding the place now. So it's still
mm,
very active real estate market, if anything, people might even be looking at this as going, oh, I should buy something sooner.
Yeah,
So we'll wait and see. And actually, it takes time for these units to come to market as well. So
sure.
whether or not it actually comes in there and it actually lowers the cost of property, I don't expect that would be too much of the case. It'll just probably create a bit more opportunity for people to buy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I agree. I think the market is, every buyer that I'm getting to that pre-approval stage, we're going out and buying. No one's really holding back right now, and we still have the inventory problem here as well. So, and I suppose it's too early to see with the loan that you could potentially get 50% forgiven on. Would that be bundled in with the mortgage, or would that be a separate thing? Do you know?
Tough to say. I don't believe so.
Right.
Because I think, for obviously, it might be something that people might get in conjunction with buying a
Right.
property,
Yeah.
right? So that they can actually do it. A lot of people actually already do that now. It's not a forgivable loan, but there are programs that are available through banks, through mortgage insurers like CMHC, where they allow you to use the funds to do the necessary work, build that basement suite, to renovate the home, to replace that bad electrical or that old, piping that needs to be replaced to make it a more habitable home. So that exists, not forgivable. I would assume that when it comes to the forgiveness component, it's probably going to be something that comes separately from the province of BC and will likely be registered on the title of the home as like a second mortgage.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. All right, great. Well, thanks very much, Damon, for today. Really appreciate the information. Like you said, it's very much at an infancy stage, so be interesting to see how this pans out, and maybe we can get back together when we have more information from the BC government and then local municipalities.
Absolutely. Love it. Thanks, Phil.
No worries. Cheers.